You are listening to episode 250 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we'd like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we take a double-dip nostalgia trip in this week's 250th episode Inflation Deflation Challenge.
That's right. So we are celebrating 250 episodes of the Game Deflators Podcast. We decided to take a dip into, like Ryan said, prior nostalgic games that we played. So we took two games from our prior 200 episodes. I don't know where we came up with that number. We just decided let's pull one from episodes 1 through 100 and then one through episodes 1 through 200. So up on the list today is going to be Monster in My Pocket and Simpsons Road Rage. Funny enough, though, Simpsons Road Rage, Ryan didn't play with me. I actually played that with Christopher Pico, old-ass retro gamer, while you were out that day. So it was kind of cool to get, like, for me, the, like, replay, but also for you, like, the fresh new view as well. So kind of like a net new inflation deflation for you, and then, like, a duel for both of us on the other front.
Yeah, I've not had, like, any crazy taxi experience or anything, really, so not bad. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah. So we'll dive into both those games at the end of the episode. But first, you can find us on thegamedeflators.com. You can also find us on @GameDeflators on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. At The Game Deflators on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us at The Game Deflators on YouTube. And, of course, the podcast application you're listening to right now. Leave us a 5-star review. Okay. Current pickups and currently playing. So, pickups, Magic the Gathering cards. Always Magic the Gathering cards. We did some pre-release this week. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But we played, what is it? Not Throne of Eldraine.
Wilds of Eldraine.
Yeah, Wilds of Eldraine. The other one was Throne of Eldraine. So that's a new set coming out September 5th. I think today is, the 3rd? So it comes out Tuesday. Really cool set. I was actually pretty impressed with the Animates style cards for like the older stuff that was released. It was interesting to see how like the fairy tale kind of twist on stuff. That was pretty cool. So I had a good time with it, to be honest, with pre-release. Most pre-releases, I don't have a great time. This one was actually really cool.
Yeah, this was a great set. I had a lot of fun with it. I definitely am glad that I consulted a pre-release like draft kind of guide before I went, just because there's like so many archetypes and so many mechanics going on in this set that I'm really glad that I had some insight before I jumped in. But yeah, this was probably one of the better pre-release. Like, I felt like most people there were able to pull something pretty decent together because of the different archetypes and how well everything kind of blends. Because sometimes at pre-release, it's just like way worse than draft even, because you've got more packs to pick from, but you've got no direction that you can steer it in. It's just what it is.
Yeah, I'll say that I had some decent pickups in my actual like cards that I got, but they weren't like good enough to actually play through a Swiss tournament basically in what we did. So like I ended up playing green white with mine. I know you did red black rats with tokens and such. Yours was actually pretty effective. Mine kind of hinged on several cards being put into play, and if I didn't draw those, I was kind of screwed. I had a couple board wipes which came in like nice and handy, but there was just too many answers that people had in limited play for it to really have crazy effects. So I think I went 1 and 2, but you also went 1 and 2.
Yeah, we both went 1 and 2.
Yeah. Other than that, though, I picked up the Rick and Morty D&D set. So they had that like box set with like a 48-page small campaign, Rick and Morty.
It's like Lost Minds of Phandelver, but Rick and Morty style.
Something like that. And it was $30, right? So normally that particular set goes for about 50 to 60 on the regular. And the shop that we went to, these guys are normally like priced up the ass on everything. Like if you're looking at, for example, a book that is third party from Amazon and it's normally like $30, they're selling it for like 40 type of deal. Or minis go for like a couple bucks more than regular. So little things like that. Their booster packs for Magic are higher price. They price everything up on like Magic Gathering booster boxes in general. So normally are pretty bad, but they actually had this at $30 because they were selling it at market price or like retail based on the the label versus what secondary market was, which was very surprising to me. So when I didn't see a tag on that box and I saw the $30 tag on the back, I'm like, Let me check their website. It was also $30 on the website. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm just going to buy it here because,
It's not something they just have at Target?
No, like that, dude. I went on Amazon. I went on eBay. All of them are like, I think the lowest I saw is $45 plus $5 shipping plus tax. So you're looking at like $60 total in there. There were several that were $60, and then Amazon was like a consistent $65 for the same set. So it's just one of those things that, like, unless you can find it at a $30 price point, which is what it was originally released at, you're going to be paying more, and it's not exactly the easiest thing to come across. Like, I haven't seen it at my Target that I went to. So I wish I would have got the, which one was it? The Stranger Things one? Because that one's like $90 to $120 now.
Oh, wow.
Same deal, like a little tiny book, but it has a mini with it. This one I don't think does. So pick that up as well. Games that I'm currently playing right now. So I'm still playing Magic the Gathering Arenas. I am saving up my cash on Arenas, or my gold tokens. So I've got 24,000 gold on there. The goal is to get to 40,000, which I should be able to achieve by next week. And then I'll buy 40 packs of Eldraine on there, and also get like a couple bonus cards and some bonus alternate art things. And on top of that, I got to Diamond level 2 on there with my burn deck, which is a couple steps away from Mythic. I could not get to Mythic. It sucked. But, end of the, period of time or season, I ended up getting, it was like 4 booster packs, 1,000 gold, and like an extra card or something like that. So, it makes it worth it to do that. Really what I'm hoping to do is get enough of those Eldraine cards and rare cards to build up like a blue-black deck, see how it performs on the regular, and then based on that, make the purchase on physical cards, even if it's like $250 to get like an actual deck set. If I can get something that's like top tier meta because of a new Eldraine set, then I'll do it. I didn't want to do anything prior to Eldraine just because
it's on the way out.
It's on the way out, right? You don't know like what's going to be coming in, what's going to be, kind of the new meta. Looks like blue black is going to kind of hold up, and so that's the direction I'm going to go. I'm just going to, play through it on Arenas, see how things go on there, and purchase the cards physically. I do have my poison deck I built a while back, and I've got I got black rats, like toxic rats that I'm making. That's also coming through. So,
well, a bunch of new rat stuff coming in.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I was asking if you wanted to do play some standard with a couple decks, because I'm going to have my poison deck, which is like just straight toxic creatures. And then I'm going to have the rat deck, which is like ninja rats and all this other crazy stuff. So 2 tribal type decks should be kind of fun to play against each other. So that's the situation there. And then White Knight Chronicles. I've been trying to play more White Knight Chronicles. I am still in like this same section, and it's not that like I don't want to play it. It's that every time I log on, it's like kind of late and I fall asleep in the middle of it. So like last night I got through like a bunch of enemies. I'm like, okay, cool. I got to this bridge and had this like giant enemy, and I was literally falling asleep while attacking and pressing the X button. And I got this big enemy. I'm like, I'm going to go save. I've literally started, killed all the enemies, and saved the same exact process like 5 times now, because it's just how it works out.
You just got to get some time where you can actually get over that hump.
Yeah, and it's just so difficult, man. Like, there's days where I try to start at like 10 and I just fall asleep. Yeah. And then there's other days where I'm like up till 11 or 12, but then I start to play and then I fall asleep because it's already too late at that point. So that's really what's happening there, why that hasn't progressed anywhere. I really want to dive into it deeper. And then I sorted Magic cards the whole week, so that probably kind of cut into a lot of my gaming time this week as well. I mean, you saw the picture, and I post on Instagram as well for us. It's just like, oh God, what is it, like 4,000 or 5,000 count boxes plus some 2,000 count boxes that I was going through. That's not including the 3,000 count box that I still have to go through, and then like all of the Fat Pat boxes that I have to go through as well. So like, I'm getting there, to be honest. Like, I'm super close to knocking out like the older stuff that I know is not organized. And what I mean by that is the collections that I bought, I got from Justin a few years back, and he actually organized it. So like if I'm pulling, a certain set and I'm like, oh, here's blue cards from like M14, he's got all of the cancels together. He's got all of like the, boomerangs together. He's got all the unsummons together. Like everything is together. So as I'm going through, I can be like, oh, cool. I already have 4 of those. Toss the rest into this pile. And then I'm just giving that to a friend of mine who's out in Florida. So he's getting all of my bulk, and I just sent him like 7,500 cards the other day, and I've got another like 3,000 in waiting so far. Looking to send him another 7,500, hopefully.
Dang.
Yeah. So I mean, if you think about like that's excess. So I probably I overestimate. I thought I only had like 20,000 cards. I probably honestly have like 60,000 cards.
Yeah.
In the collection.
Well, I mean, if you just count 5,000 boxes.
Yeah, 5,000 count boxes. I mean, it's probably like plus minus like a few hundred, but still, like that's 4 of them sitting on a table, and it's not including. I probably honestly have right now, after getting rid of that stuff, I probably have in total about, I would say 8 5,000 count boxes. So that's about 40,000 cards now, and I already got rid of 7,500. I've got another amount coming through. So yeah, it's closer to 60K. And that's not including my rares, my decks, and other commander cards and stuff like that I have set aside. Binder cards that I've got. I've got like 4 or 5 binders, like filled, like thick. It's like 4-inch binders filled to the brim with like bulk rares and stuff. So there's a ton of stuff to go through. It's going to take me forever, but once I get rid of all that like bulk, I'll scale down even further to say, oh, I have a giant growth in 4 different sets.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, there's so many reprints that, like, if you've got a full play set, you've probably got, like, 8 full play sets.
Yeah, ideally, I would love to get to the point if there was something that was a little more automated where I could just, like, scan my cards. But the problem is that those programs, or not those programs, but the machines that do that are, like, thousands of dollars to do that. And that, to me, is just not worth it. Yeah, it's my time, but at the same time I'm going through, I'm finding like dollar rares or dollar uncommons and commons, things that are $4 or $5 as I'm going through. I just found like $80 worth of uncommons the other day, just at random. So, I mean, there's good stuff in there. It's just a matter of going through it at this point. So, all right, how about yourself?
So I've been pretty light the last week or two. We went, like you said, we did the pre-release the other night. So I haven't picked up anything else recently. I mean, I did like the preload for Starfield on my Xbox, so I'm all ready for Tuesday for that to roll out. I put Sea of Stars on there too, because that just came out as a day one release. I know the Completionist just put up a video today. That's one that I really want to check out, but I mean, I spent so much time yesterday thinking about going back and playing Darkness, and just didn't get around to it because I was doing other stuff at the house. So it's like, I know that I need to get back and finish that real soon. And then Pikmin's like around the corner for me as well, that I need to finish that. But with Starfield about to come out, it's like, oh my God, where am I going to do all this? Plus, I'm, most of the way through Final Fantasy IX.
I will say, Ryan, pumpkin spice products are on the shelf. Fall is coming, so Darkness is probably your top priority.
Yeah, it is. I think.
And you still got Pikmin.
Yeah, I know. I just said that.
I don't. Yeah, I know. I'm just adding to it, but like I can't even remember what the hell mine was.
You did. What did you do?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
See, that's how long ago it was, Ryan, that I finished.
Kuon, right? No, not Kuon.
I don't know what the hell I did this year.
The turn-based, or no, the like tactical RPG that took you
Oh,
forever.
yeah, Cardia. God, yeah, that took me forever, and I'm like,
Cardia, Kuon, same difference.
Yeah, that took me forever, and I was falling asleep, had a baby, and you're like, I'll get through Pikmin eventually.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of time that I need to spend on any of these games isn't really that much. Like, I know that I'm well more than halfway through the Darkness. I'm at least halfway through Pikmin. I'm right near, like, somewhere in Disc 3 of Final Fantasy IX, and I keep doing the same thing you do. Like, I'm in this area where I don't really know where to go next, and I've ran all around it, like, 3 times and killed a bunch of enemies and leveled up, and it's like, where do I go?
Yeah.
I just haven't consulted a guide yet. But, yeah, this week just was not a big week for playing games for me. I, unlike you, am most of the way through the One Piece live action. Got 2 more episodes left, and I will say that it is really good. Bree really likes it. I really like it. I know a lot of people aren't happy with certain things of it, but I think that they did just about everything right. And if you can get over the fact that, hey, they had to adapt in order to get hundreds of chapters into 8 episodes. It's really pretty good. I think that they did a good job, like, mainlining the story and getting things to make, pretty good sense and showing a bit enough of everything that they need to. So,
well, and they do things in a way to kind of help people that aren't a big, that don't understand the series or haven't read the series or anything like that, understand the characters better, right? So a couple things that I noticed that kind of bugged me. One of them is that Kid Luffy doesn't exactly have a thick accent, but to me, adult Luffy has a thicker accent. So, like, you could tell, I'm like, technically the child would have a very similar accent growing up as to what the adult would have later on.
You're so nitpicky.
I know, but it's just one of those things that stood out to me. I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So that one kind of stood out to me right off the bat. But, I do like the way that they introduced Zoro and they brought in the Baroque works. So I saw like the first 20 minutes basically because my wife fell asleep and I want to watch it with her. So I saw Zoro and like his whole like introductory and you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of giving a better explanation to what's happening. The introduction of Baroque works doesn't make it so confusing so that later on, so spoilers if you've never read One Piece or watched it, that later on when Baroque works hopefully does come into play, people aren't like, wait, what the hell is going on? Who's Baroque works? What's happening here? There was that introduction in the beginning. And in Nami with the, stealing of that ship, right? Like that automatically puts her down as like cat burglar. So oh, okay, she is a pirate. So that when it does come down the road and there's that story tie-in, there's going to be an understanding. And this is me only looking at it from, like I said, 20 minutes into episode 1. So I can see why people would complain, but at the same time, you're right. It's 8 episodes to condense a lot of chapters and a lot of episodes technically.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it comes out. But I mean, critic reviews in like the high 80s and, general viewer reviews sitting at like 95 on Rotten Tomatoes. Like that to me is solid when you're looking at an anime adaptation. One other thing to point out One Piece, since you're on that, is I actually watched episode 1074 last night. So, dude, the whole like, well, you know what happens, right? Or
No.
what's going on? The gears and everything?
No.
No? Okay, I won't spoil anything then. But yeah, his battle that's going on right now on episode 1074, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm so disappointed with how they ended that episode because I'm like, oh, I gotta wait a whole other week just to see. Like, I already know what happens, but like, I wanted to see that whole piece kind of play out, and now I gotta wait a week. So.
Yeah, 95 chapters of the manga.
Oh, is that what's in there?
Yeah, so it's like a 10th of One Piece almost.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's about right. So realistically, we're looking at 10 seasons at minimum to catch up to where they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gonna be difficult.
And so much content.
Yeah, so much cut. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out long term. But you know what that tells me, though, is either one of two things. Either they're anticipating One Piece is going to last 10 plus years, right, to finish it up. Or, as I think Oda had said, like he's anticipating a few more years of chapters, like 2 or 3 more years. Hopefully they don't condense and are like, oh, we'll bash it all into like 4 seasons and skip like everything.
Yeah.
I
know that they're going to try to position this as like Netflix's Game of Thrones, like length and quality, type of production.
They kind of have to. They kind of have to. But it's such a huge fan base that it's going to turn some heads into the direction of Netflix. I think it's a smart move if they really put that effort towards making this like a top tier piece. But then what does that say about their other original content?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's dive into discussion topic unless you had anything else on currently playing.
Yeah, so speaking of new unoriginal content.
Lorcana.
So neither John or I have actually played this, so we'll preface it with that. But
I've seen it played, though.
Yeah, we were talking, and it seems like there's still some cool things to like kind of go over here. I am kind of on the position side where I know very little about Lorcana, but, as with probably a lot of people out there who may have dabbled in like some Pokemon or some Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever the case may be at some point in their life, and they're into Disney and they see this game come out, like they may be tempted to go and check it out. So I'm definitely curious in those ways to see exactly how the game is, and I mean, I always love art, and who doesn't love opening packs of cards and stuff? So if there was like an event at a store that was like, a pre-release or a draft, I don't even know if you can draft with this game or whatever, but whatever the case may be, this is definitely something I would be interested in checking out if I had some other people to kind of check it out with. But I haven't done a whole lot of research, and John definitely has learned a lot more about it than I have.
To an extent. So the main reason I'm not interested in this is I have zero interest in getting involved in a game that I feel is going to die within the next few years. Mm-hmm. I can't see this being a long-term type of project for Disney. I can see them doing it, a few years at most, and then cutting their ties when it's no longer as profitable as they think it's going to be. And, main reason is you look at other card games. Magic the Gathering's been around for 30 years now. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say the original, but it's kind of the OG of trading card games. It's the one
everybody calls the base game, basically.
Yeah, and so like Lorcana, they're like, oh, it's Disney's answer to Magic the Gathering. Like if you're saying it's your answer to Magic the Gathering, then Magic the Gathering is obviously top tier.
Magic has already won.
Yeah, Magic's already won, right? So you got 30 years of that. Pokemon, you've got, 20-something years of Pokemon, roughly, Pokemon trading cards. And the game has had its ups and downs in terms of, playability. But there is a big community around the Pokemon game itself. And it's actually growing as of late because of Pokemon Go, a lot of the new things that have come out for that.
Pokemon has so many other avenues to truck people in to the gaming space. And, there's Disney games.
But it's gaming related already of Pokemon, right?
People aren't, playing... whatever that new Mickey Mouse platformer that came out. It's supposed to be a pretty good game, but people don't associate Disney off the bat with gaming the way they do Pokemon.
And so while Disney does have a big fan base, right? If you consider a few things, Disney's fan base, yes, mainly kids, does have adults that are big into that nostalgia. But if you're an adult who's actively doing competitive card games and you have a choice between Lorcana and a tried and true Magic the Gathering that you've been playing for many years, you're going to play Lorcana for a little bit, but you're going to go back to Disney. I mean, not Disney. You're going to go back to Magic the Gathering. You'll watch Disney movies, but you're going to go back to Magic the Gathering. And then with the kids are eventually at some point going to grow out of the fact that it's Disney, right? So you do have kids and adults that play Pokemon still, but it's a little different again. When you think about the characters in the world of Disney, Pokemon has 25-something years of hundreds upon hundreds of Pokemon and trainers and energies and lore and things that have come into it. Disney has movies, and those movies have main characters. And
Disney has series.
Yes, they have series. But
they have Star Wars.
Yeah, but are they going to incorporate Star Wars? Are they going to incorporate Marvel? Maybe, maybe not. And that's fine. But when you start, say you incorporate Marvel, you're going to have Marvel characters going up against Mickey Mouse in battle. I don't know. It just seems weird.
Kingdom
to me,
Hearts, it worked there.
It did work there, but they don't have the rights to technically, all of his other characters, maybe Sora. So when I just look at the two avenues that this could go, right? Community-based game where people are actively playing in competitive tournaments and trying to win cards and all of that. And you have your people that are literally... Actually, three avenues. People that are buying it to flip the product, because that's actually pretty big right now. Yeah. That's one of the reasons things are so high, is that the secondary market's insane with people that are just trying to, buy as much product as they can and sell it at the highest price, right? There's going to come a point in time where that's done. So that's gone. Those people are no longer buying. You're going to have the people that are going to start buying, but are they just collecting or are they playing the game? Odds are, even if they start playing over time, may lose interest if it's not compelling enough and there's not a community built around it. Even what we saw at the store we went to the other day, there was 10 people on that chart. They have a Lorcana League going on. There was 10 people in the chart. That's not very big. Whereas when we went with Magic, you had 30 people just sitting there. And that's not including people that were there for prior pre-releases and people that were there playing Modern while we were there as well.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a new game. Yes, it's out of stock everywhere. Can I see this going in a positive direction? No. I look at things like Card Fight Vanguard, the Dragon Ball Z game, even a One Piece game that's come out, which, is it popular? Maybe to some people. You've got things like, what did you say, Legend of the Stars, Legend of Five Stars or something?
I think it's Legend of the Ten Rings or something.
10 Rings. You have Netrunner, which was actually created by creators of Magic the Gathering, and that failed over a period of time. there's tons, and even on Kickstarter, there's tons of new trading card games that come out that just fail over time. They could last a few years, but then they're gone. And Disney's not the type of company that's going to sit there with a failed product and say, yep, we're going to keep pumping out this product and it's going to be super successful. And this could bite me in the ass, 5 years down the road. Somebody's listening says I'm totally wrong, but I could be totally right in a couple of years as well. And that's where I think it's going to be. So that is me just throwing all that out there.
Yeah, I think that, there's a few different types of things happening here. You covered all of them pretty well. I mean, I've always heard that Pokemon and Magic kind of exist as inverses of one another, where
I would agree with that.
70% of people who buy Magic buy it to play, 30% are just collectors, whereas Pokemon, 70% of people just buy the cards to have them and don't really play, 30% play. So, I mean, with the number of people that are on that Lorcana League play chart, obviously that store has sold more cards than just the cards to those people in flippers. They definitely probably sold them to people who just want the cool art and the rush of opening packs and have disposable income. So, if that catches on, it could last, like you were saying, maybe a few years until Disney decides that it's not worth investing the money in, because, Disney has the money to steamroll this for as long as they want and make it happen. But Disney also has a bottom line that they're going to, not be afraid to just kill things off. They're already so eager to, pull fully released, completed works off of Disney Plus that they own the rights to, just so that they can get a tax break on it and save a little bit money on residuals. Things that have been out less than 6 months, they'll just kill off. So Disney's definitely not afraid to do that either. I think that ultimately what'll really depend on is the next release set. When you go from, here's the base game, now it's out there, everybody's played it, where do we go next? How do we elevate this, and how do we keep it rolling? If they can make good decisions at that point, it may totally flip things around. How different did Magic become when they released Planeswalkers and, started to do things, different than they had been doing for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
If you can shift up the meta and make the game more interesting and get it in enough people's hands, I guess that's really the challenge right now, is that there's not enough to go out for curious people to really be able to just dip their toes in and play without having to play a premium. And there's no online, Magic Arena equivalent at this point, because that would cost so much money to develop and release for something that's already unproven. So there's not really a great, test bed for the casual person to get in on.
Well, and then a couple other things is we're very early on, right? So if you look at Flesh and Blood, which is another card game that's very comparable to Magic, and if there was something that would pull me away, it would be Flesh and Blood. But that particular game, it saw prices in the thousands for their first edition boxes that came out, because they do first edition.
Isn't it super cheap game now?
It's cheaper from what I understand, but those first edition prints, their beta and alpha type sets, went for stupid amounts of money because, speculation. Oh, this is going to be a Magic killer.
It'll age like Magic.
Yeah, they're thinking, oh, well, this will age like Magic. I'll have tons of money in this down the road, blah, blah. I haven't heard much since then. If you looked at Channel Fireball, I would get ads for them all the time. They're a big trading card company, essentially. And they were just pushing Flesh and Blood constantly. Box sets, combos, everything. I haven't seen a single ad in the last year for that. And every time I go to a shop, I don't hear anything about Flesh and Blood tournaments. I see a small little section of Flesh and Blood cards. This was in terms of the card community, a huge potential Magic killer. And people were saying, oh, it's tons of fun. It's the best thing you've ever played. Now it's crickets everywhere. I don't see anything about it. And so I could see Lorcana taking a similar step. It's big right now. Disney fans I have to get my hands. I got to collect the Lorcana cards, right? It's not about playing. It's collect the Lorcana cards because I want to collect them. And then in terms of people that actively want to play, well, now you've got the secondary market, right? Are you spending a bunch of money, or are you waiting for things to get cheaper? And as you wait for things to get cheaper, what happens into, the cards that you have picked up? Is Disney going to have massive amounts of reprints? It's not like Disney is going to create a, do not print again list, right? I could see it going down the path of like Yu-Gi-Oh, where Yu-Gi-Oh originally had Exodia sitting at like 50, $60, an arm and a leg and a head, to where now they're like 30 cents for like an Exodia leg, right? So those prices over various reprints continue to decline, and I could see something very similar happen in Lorcana. And on top of that, I mean, how much can you expand that world? It's not like you can create, I mean, you could, I guess, theoretically, but like create new characters specifically to the Lorcana world. I mean, maybe.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, you have so many of those characters that have been in so many different situations. I mean, how many different types of Mickey Mouse could you make?
Can have like 7 Elsas in a thing, like Elsa's Ice Fury or Elsa's Heart or whatever. I don't know. You can have tons of cards.
I mean, there's a billion Jaces.
Yeah, there are a billion Jaces, but they're all very different Jaces that do different things. And there's also...
so here's another thing. So Lorcana will be released to start in English, French, and German. It's likely later on that they'll do Japanese, Chinese, and Spanish. So, I mean, I don't know how many languages Magic is in or how long it took them to get there, but like, I know Japan has a lot of card stores, and like they're big on Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and Magic. But if this isn't even out there, and it's going to take them, a year to release it over there, and you're speculating only 2 to 3 years of support in total, they're making it there halfway through the life cycle when it's already almost dead. So it's like, I don't know how important international markets are to them, but like Disney is a universal, like around the world brand. So it would make sense to me to try to bring that to as many places as soon as possible, because it's not just about what the adoption rate is here necessarily.
Well, the adoption rate here, the reason I start here is because the adoption rate is going to be better here. What they should have realistically done, which would have actually been kind of smart, is released it in international markets first, like a Japan, like a China, a France, etc. Kind of moved it into those areas to create more pop in the United States, where you're going to have a bigger fan base anyways. Then release it here, because you're going to get those people buying international cards. You're going to have the international markets buying cards. And then when it finally releases in the U.S., people are going to go so crazy over the fact that it's everywhere else but the United States that they'll buy it. So I think, honestly, they did themselves a disservice by not creating more buzz. There was already buzz, but they could have created more buzz.
I wonder if they'll have it at like Disneyland and Disney World. Like, I mean,
Probably.
like just in the shops.
Yeah, probably. I would assume so. Well, enough about Lorcana. Let's talk 250 episodes. I don't know how the hell we have done that many episodes.
Because we're still having fun. That's the thing, folks. We're here. We're having a good time. We love to do the podcast. I like to come hang out with John, bust his balls, and play some games every once in a while.
What about my balls?
So 250 episodes, like 5 years. We went back today, like we said earlier, we're doing a couple of games from the past, and it's just crazy how we've had these, different phases where the podcast was like slightly differently, or when we tried to do new introductory things, like when we started doing the Triple Threat Throwdown or the Starter Kit Showdowns. Like, the future of the podcast is very bright, and I don't see us really slowing down anytime soon.
Tons of guests, former hosts no longer with us. I don't think we'll go down the route of 3 hosts again. So it's always good. And then, of course, I think the areas that we can get better on are production on video would be nice, but that's so tough to do that. So it's like, do you keep it as just a podcast, or do you expand out the video? I think the route we've gone, we're just kind of uploading our content on YouTube as audio, has been good. And then, of course, whenever we have a chance to do some sort of like little bits of video, things like we have on our YouTube, we've got like 30-second plays of content, or us opening books or commentating on things. We've got a couple like physical reviews and package opens for video games for like premium edition games, and Brian Rigsby, who's created a few old retro game books for us to open. So yeah, tons of great content, and I'm looking forward to, I guess, the next 250 episodes. It's kind of crazy to think about how many episodes we could do.
Well, and see where it takes us. I mean, we've already been to 3 or 4 conventions, getting media passes. We've gotten, lots of connections with like some small indie devs and some different people, in the industry, like people that through voice acting work. I mean, we've been listened to in, a decent handful of countries already.
There's a lot of countries on our list, actually. We got South Africa, of course, the UK, Australia, France. I think we've had the Island of Man, which is like, and that's not like a bot listen. That's like a straight up, we have somebody out there that listens to us, which is pretty cool. I wish they comment on our stuff. They probably have.
He's the man. The island's talking about.
Yeah, the island or Isle of Man. Like that's the dude. Yeah. I know we've had people from like Ireland and Canada, obviously, South American countries occasionally. So we've had a few Russian downloads, which is pretty cool. They probably listen to our Russian specific episodes on, what's happening with their video games over there. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Like just to see how it's grown from where we were, I guess technically 5 years ago to where we are now. It's insane to see like, just the overall growth in what we've been able to do, and then just the overall growth in terms of like the spread of that content.
So thank you. Thank you everybody for listening. If you don't regularly leave a comment, this would be a great episode to maybe just, break that tradition and go out there and say, hey, thank you for 250 episodes. We would really appreciate that. And we love to be able to, foster some more community and talk to some more of you and know what you've liked about, what was your favorite episode over the past 250 episodes? What's a game that you would like us to revisit it again in the future and see if it's something that still holds up?
So I know he's listening right now. Will, I need you to leave that comment and say thank you for 250 episodes. And also let us know what your favorite episode was. Really appreciate that. All right, let's dive into our discussion topics this week, or articles for the week that we're going to cover. So Starfield's Metacritic score has fallen. It is no longer 2023's highest rated Xbox game. This is Tyler Fisher at comicbook.com. So basically, the game comes out September 6th. Of course, there are reviews that are in market right now.
Early access started on the 1st, I think.
Yeah, and then you've, of course, had your review embargoes gone. So I think like IGN gave it like a 6, which is kind of crazy, or 7.
7.
But yeah, like there's places giving it 10 out of 10, some places giving it 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, and then there's a lot they're giving 6 to 7 out of 10. And, it has dropped the score from what was, of course, like I said, the highest score of 2023 on Xbox to now 7th, I believe it is, on Xbox, and 11th on PC for the year. Actually, I think it's behind Fallout 4, if I'm correct. And
yeah,
of course,
so in the historical Bethesda universe, Fallout 4 came out with scores 84, 87, 88. And that was behind Skyrim at 92, 94, 96.
Yeah.
So definitely kind of continuing that decline. But I think that from what I've heard, at the beginning I was trying to be as like uninformed as possible, but that doesn't usually last for me. Usually I'm like, I want to know things and see stuff. And one of my favorite creators, he's been making some little guides and short videos that don't have a lot of spoilers, but just enough. And this is one of those games that everybody's saying, and I think this is probably one of the reasons for a lower score, is it's one of those ones where it's like, hey, you got to play like 12, 20 hours before you really start to come around to the game more and get used to how it's different and how it plays regularly. Well, and that's a tough ask for people.
The other thing coming out of it too, that I've seen, is people saying, hey, look, visually it looks great. I love the ability to explore planets, but it gets old quick, and the story's not very good.
See, I've heard the opposite. I've heard that this is Bethesda's best story, and Mr. Matty Place even said that he believes that this is just like a really good story in general, but you need to, in order to get the most out of the game, you need to un-Bethesda yourself and not just go wander off and do stuff. You need to follow the story for at least a little while and do some kind of, getting yourself more vested before you decide to go peter off and do whatever.
Well, and that's the issue, is that people are going to go explore planets. They're going to have that fun. Like there was somebody who said, I went to like an abandoned mine on a planet and got completely lost, or I got lost in another planet, and like you spend countless, like it's worth it, right? You enjoy yourself. but it takes away from the core part of that story having to do all of that. So it's almost like you kind of wish that they would lock things like that. Like, don't make it so exploratory from the get-go. Like, put it to where you've got, you got to play 10 to 15 hours of story and really get yourself integrated before you can truly explore like the vast planets and like really dive yourself in, because by then you're hooked on story and you're like, oh, cool. Like, I need to continue this on. And then knowing that I can explore various areas afterwards if I want to. Even if it's as simple as like, hey, let's make the story 15, 20 hours, complete it, and then after the story's done, you can do all the side quests you want and pick up additional stories that take you wherever you want to go, right? So I'm going to play it at some point. I'll get Game Pass on the PC, and that's where I'll play it. But as of right now, I'm so like bogged down with everything else and not being able to play the games that I've wanted to play that it makes no sense for me to put another $10 a month towards something that I'm not going to play anytime soon. So that's where I'm at with that. But I don't think this is anything abnormal. I think it's still good reviews overall.
This has just been a stellar year for gaming. Like, we've been absolutely spoiled for choice for great games. One thing I'm thinking, though, is that these scores and kind of the general opinion of things, I don't really see Starfield being a huge contender for Game of the Year like we kind of all really initially thought it would. I mean, at this point, I would say it would be pretty hard for something to take down Baldur's Gate 3. Like, I think it's just got so much hype and just good review and everything behind it that's going to be the Game of the Year to try to beat. And I don't think Starfield it has what it takes to dethrone that, really. Like, maybe you'll get it as Game of the Year from like more traditional Xbox aligned places or something.
Isn't it technically an RPG? So it's not even like they can win RPG of the Year, because that'll go to Baldur's Gate or Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to win Game of the Year because Baldur's Gate exists. Like, there might be a few awards you might get for like visuals, but that could still go to Final Fantasy 16.
I still don't think,
So like this could be a game that like it's a good game, but it just isn't critically acclaimed compared to some of the other games. Because like you said, we're not even through the year.
Yeah.
And tons of great content has come out. So one other comment that I'll add here is that to me, looking at this, it's like it's Fallout in space. Yeah. That's really what it kind of comes out to. So if you love the Fallout games, which I do, then you're going to love this and you're going to enjoy it. If you're not a big fan of Fallout, then you're probably not going to like it. And it almost seems to me like, yes, it's, a brand new game and it's in space and everything else, but in a way it's also recycled content if you think about it. Like, in terms of the overall, like, what's happening, it's a very recycled, type of game. So nothing groundbreaking in my opinion as of now, but I haven't played it yet, so we'll see what happens. Okay, SAG-AFTRA, right? AFTRA has requested approval to strike against video game companies, and this is Ava Rothenberg at CNN. So you like randomly just spotted this one today, and I think that it's not abnormal, right? We've already seen like the SAG strikes on everything else that's going on, right? And if you're to have something on video games and try and compete for like better wages, it makes sense. Like, that's the reason that organization exists, is specifically to help boost the wages of actors. And when you think actors and actresses and voice actors who are part of this as well, a lot of people think they make a ton of money. That's far from the case.
Yeah, voice actors, there's a reason that they're going and doing all the signings at all of the different cons that they get invited to, because they make a little extra money there. Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're making Hollywood dollars. They don't get any residuals. They go in, they record, they get paid, and that's the last that they hear about it, really, unless they get asked to do something else afterwards.
Yeah, and there's some that do get residuals. Like, I know back in the day with like Pokemon, I think they got residual income that came from it originally, but I don't know.
Well, video game side,
yeah. Well, so think about like the voice actors in the shows, like you said, like some of them do go because it's extra money. Some of them go because they just want to meet fans. It's just ultimately what it comes down to. But, I know voice actors that live in a studio apartment or they are struggling financially, and, they need this, right? They need that extra pay to come through. and accounting for inflation as well. So I think they're looking for an 11% increase in pay, and then they're also looking for, I believe it's a 4% increase to account for inflation. It makes sense. And if you kind of take away the multi-million-dollar major Hollywood actors that are part of SAG, and you really kind of take a deeper look into the fact that there's B movies and C movies, and people are trying
background
to make it big.
actors.
Yeah, like those people need that boost in income, and this is huge for them. So 100% supportive of this, obviously. Usually I'm not a big fan of unions, but in this case, it makes sense, right? Because it's a different type of ball game compared to, a salaried worker working for the county, right? It's a little different in that respect. This is straight up almost gig work in a sense with these folks. And then, of course, everybody, like you said, behind the scenes, people that are working on stage props and are handling, various setups and whatnot, or audio equipment. Like, this isn't just the people you see on screen.
Yeah, and I mean, we've heard a lot over the last couple of years for unionization across the board, programmers, artists, even testing teams and such. The amount of just disrespect that the video game industry has for all of its employees, except for its CEO most of the time, is astounding. So finally trying to, get some more upfront representation for some of these unrepresented groups, but now actually showing some challenge from one of the few that has been represented, because the voice actors have always been a part of SAG-AFTRA. They don't get the same cut deal like they've got with Hollywood studios, which is why they're having to kind of do this separately. But they're just going to keep steamrolling and doing whatever they want and trying to use AI to replace people. Like, they're all about that bottom dollar and just milking the creativity out of anybody that they can sucker into coming and working for them. Yeah. So the more that they can push back and get together and, try to establish better rights for themselves, the more that can hopefully bleed over into those other parts of the industry too, and hopefully make things better for everyone. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want great games. They all want to put out great products, and the studio wants to make as much money as humanly possible, and not all of those things can coincide together. So I'm all for this. I think that it would be, a good challenge to show, and it's something that wouldn't have been possible at all in the past, because for the most part, we all expect fully voice-acted games. And we still don't even get that. Like in Final Fantasy 16, there's parts where it's like full voice acting and still parts where you're just reading, dialogue lines. And, I mean, as opposed to reading as I am, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. But, like, there's definitely not been a time in history where it's like, okay, we expect this from the game, and if they're not going to be able to provide it, what are you going to do? You're going to release a giant $300 million game with just dialogue text? Like, people are not going to really let that fly in the same way that they used to.
No, not at all. So if you are, part of SAG, kudos to you for trying to get that extra pay. And we are supportive of that, obviously.
Come on the podcast. We will let you use your voice to
talk
all about it. Although we can't pay you, so sorry.
I was like, can't pay to that, Ryan. Like, so we're not part of that. We're not supportive of that.
You'll do this for free, right? For the passion?
For the passion. For what was the old thing? Exposure. Exposure, yeah. Okay, so Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The makers explain the new gameplay and the elephant in the room. This is James Perkins at, what is that?
NPR.
Oh, okay, NPR. James Perkins, Master Mario, and Alex Cheng. I was like, what the heck is that organization? I didn't realize it.
Oh, yeah, James Perkins, Master Marino, and Alex Cheng at NPR.
At NPR. I actually have an old classmate that works at NPR marketing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think of all of the Mario trailers that I have seen, this is probably the most excited I've been for a Mario since, like, Galaxy. Because I'm not a big Mario person. I mean, I played Mario last year for the podcast.
And you played Odyssey?
Yeah, I like to play, a few levels. I'll usually make it up to like the bridge with the saws in Super Mario World, or like I'll play through like the first like couple of paintings in N64 or Mario 64. Like that's most of my Mario, is just kind of dipping my toes here and there. But the amount of differences and just the visual like impressiveness of this game, like the backgrounds are really vibrant and colorful. Some of the new enemies and things are clever. They've got this badge system where you can change the abilities of the characters as you play, rather than have like Peach does the float thing, Luigi jumps a little higher. Like you can badge on a single ability that makes them different. Like even having like a grappling hook effect and things. And they're not just like power-ups. They're a part of your full play style throughout the game. I think that it's done so much to really modernize Mario and bring forward like a lot of aspects that I would never have expected to just be present in a Mario game, because I just figured Mario would always be exactly the same thing, run and jump.
Yeah, and so speaking of power-ups, you have like the bubble power-up, which allows you to like, capture enemies and destroy them through like walls and from a distance or anything else. But what I found really cool is the ability to like use bubbles as like a jumping pad to go to different things. That was pretty awesome. They have a drill head now where you can kind of drill into the ceiling and go underground to avoid enemies. You can go underneath barriers to get into secret locations, go under enemies from the floor. You can bash bigger enemies with the head. So cool things like that. And then they have the elephant, which can spray water. He can bash blocks, go down pipes, obviously, run across larger gaps, hit enemies, pop enemies and blocks upwards to be able to kill them. So really cool power-ups that they've included here. And just watching, trailers of this, the trippiness of the background and, and all the colors, like you said, it to me pulled me in more than any more recent Mario games that have come out, specifically like the new Super Mario Bros. Games that came out on the Wii and Wii U. Those felt kind of classic with a few additions. This to me feels very different, which is a lot to say because it's Mario. So I'm actually excited about this one. I told you this one could potentially be like a day one buy for me, which is very rare, but it is Mario, so I don't anticipate it dropping, anywhere below $50 in the next year. So why am I going to, save $10 over the next year or 2 years?
Yeah.
Based on inflation alone, like it doesn't make sense for me to wait. So yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about this one. I did like that they're going to the Flower Kingdom. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. And then Bowser's new, like, let me just unload toxic shrooms on everything and change all of these environments was pretty badass too. Like just that he's unveiled his own new power as well. So lots of different characters that you can play in this one in comparison to others. So you got Peach, Luigi, Mario, of course, Yoshi, and then there's other Toads that you could play along with Toad and other Yoshi colors. So
and Nabbit's back.
Yeah. So
and Daisy.
And Daisy, yeah, Daisy is in too. So yeah, there's a very wide cast.
And they're all just available.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. You mentioned a badge system and power-ups. That was obviously a different turning point this go-around compared to other times. So that's also pretty cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard in the trailer some voices as well, like actual voice acting from NPCs.
Yeah, the little flower things will talk to you. We did get confirmation also this week. It is a new Mario voice actor.
On that game?
Yeah.
Interesting. So we'll see how that sounds.
Yeah, because Charles Martinet, he's going to go on to be the Mario ambassador.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, I mean, I saw people speculate when the first trailer came out that it was a different voice sounding to them. So we got confirmation on that recently as well. The one thing I do want to address from this article specifically here that's pretty good, I think we were all thrown by the elephant. I mean, it's not the first time Mario's ever been an animal. I mean, there's like frog suit, squirrel suit, Tanuki, bee Mario. Like, there's lots of animal Marios, but elephant just seems so bizarre and weird. And I love how straightforward the explanation. They're like, having a slightly bigger body, being able to attack blocks from the side, and being able to spray water. I mean, the elephant's the only natural answer to this. Like they knew what they wanted the powers to be, and they were just like, sounds like an elephant to me. Make an elephant Mario.
They could have brought back the frog. I mean, there's other things they could have done. Like, obviously, the big bulkiness is what you want, but like Frog Mario would have been pretty cool too to bring back.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think that it's gonna be a really interesting game. I do kind of like that 3/4 on perspective. Like Mario's running sideways, but he's always kind of looking at you while he's doing it. Mm-hmm. I kind of like that. The Yoshis, I think, look a little bit weird when they got their full mouths, but it is cool how like. So Yoshi's and Nabbit are like easy mode. You don't take any damage. And then Yoshi has like his flutter jump and can swallow things, but you can still ride Yoshi.
Yeah.
They've got this whole pseudo online mode where you're not really playing online with other people, but you've got like ghost shadows of everybody else. And if you die, they can bring you back. And you can kind of interact with them in some subtle ways, but it's not like you can jump on their heads and disrupt them and do stuff like you could in local co-op.
Yeah, and one other thing that I like that they brought back into this was the ability to swap in and out of certain powers. So if you had like a fire mushroom and you had an elephant, for example, you could, situationally, you could go ahead and like, oh, I need the elephant for this. Oh, I need to use my fire flower for this. Like you could swap in and out. I remember that being a big thing in Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, it would just pop down. This is now a little balloon pops up. So really cool. Definitely looking forward to it. I think we'll do a review on that when it comes out. It'll be fun.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep. All right, let's dive into our inflation deflation.
That's a double deflation today, folks.
Or it's a double inflation. Could be one of the two. So we're playing Monster in My Pocket for the NES. This is from our Season 2, Episode 4, or technically Episode 4. So you could check that out on your podcast app.
That was the original time we played it.
Yeah, original time. So that's like pretty much 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was one of our first episodes. This was a game, so we knew we wanted to go back and revisit some things that we had played before. Monster in My Pocket, I think I recommended it in my starter kit showdown for the NES. This is just a game, I really liked it when we played it originally, and I've always kind of thought about it again, but I mean, I'm not like over here just playing random games. Like usually we've got an agenda to do.
I think this is technically episode 9, technically speaking. I'm just thinking about it because I did like 4 episodes. Episode 1 is legit a lost episode, like first ever episode before you're on the podcast. That I don't know where the hell it is. I think it was honestly a joke. It was, we're just not going to have an episode 1. We'll just call it a lost episode and it'll always be lost. So that might be what happened there. But then season 2, episode 4 would technically be, I think, episode 9. But to your point, right? Like this was one of the first games that you and I played together. We had a lot of fun back then, and you're like, let's revisit for sure. We always wanted to revisit certain games. There was one we didn't play today that I really wanted to revisit, but
one day
couldn't get it done. We'll talk about that one at another time. But this game was developed by Konami. It was published by Konami for North America, and it was published by Palcom for the PAL region. So funny enough, Palcom. It was released in 1992 in some various regions, so North America, PAL, everywhere else. It was a platformer, or is a platformer, with a reception of 6 to 7 out of 10. Synopsis-wise. What? Oh, okay. So a couple things here. So Warlock, wanting to have power and rule over the other monsters, creates a shrinking spell to use as punishment for anyone who chooses to oppose him. As time goes on, all of the monsters choose to join his side except Vampire and Monster. However, the spell was, what is that, Miscast. I can't read it from here. Causing all monsters to shrink in size. Warlock sends out his henchmen, led by Spring-Heeled Jack, Bigfoot, Kraken, Gremlin, and Medusa, while Vampire and the Monster are watching TV in the Miles home. They must fight their way through the upstairs and kitchen of the home, the street, and the sewer. They emerge in a construction site and an Orientalist garden before fighting Warlock at the Monster Mountains. So that's really the big, long synopsis of what the heck's happening, along with some spoilers. A fun fact, though, the Asian release of this game was titled Batman and the Flash. It's an unlicensed ROM hack of a game where the main playable characters are, of course, Batman and Flash.
Yeah, so this was based off of like a toy line. There was a trading card for it. There was a comic book for it. There might have been a series for it. I don't remember.
There were toys.
Yeah, but like little tiny, just, like plastic cast monster figurines that could fit in your pocket. I think it's a fun concept for a thing, and I mean, it obviously made some big waves, and a lot of people got involved, and it had a lot of multimedia aspects to it. Reception on this, not the best. It gets like a 6-7 out of 10. Money-wise, though, we're looking pretty good. So complete inbox, $280. When we originally reviewed this back in 2018, pre-pandemic, we had no idea what was coming.
Or did we?
With the prices, but it used to be $97.88 at that time. So since we reviewed it originally, it's gone up $182.82 in value. It peaked at $280.70 back in May 2023, excluding just a random like $300 sale that happened in 2016. Loose, now it's running $59.69. When we looked at it in 2018, it was at $39, so it's gone up $20.69 in the last few years on the loose side, and that peaked at $80.61 in September 2021. That one's trending down. So this is a way more expensive game than the first time we checked it out. It just goes to show you, sometimes, you should listen to your friends, the Game Deflators. We're trying to help you folks out here.
So, based on that type of thinking, and I mean, if you want to, of course, hear our original review on this game, I don't think we need to do a re-review, right, of this. We revisit, and I think we can both say we enjoyed it. Right?
Oh, yeah.
This is a great game. It's fun, and it's easy, too. It's not like Nintendo stupid difficulty.
Yeah.
Like, this is very fluid and easy to play. So, listen to that older episode, of course. But I think it's just right. I mean, given the age of a game, given where it stood and how much it's increased in price point, is it going to continue to increase?
I would say probably. I mean, it's trending down right now, but like it's gone up $20 for the loose.
And
I would definitely pick that up now.
And it was sitting at $80 during pandemic, so people were willing to shell out $80 back then. If you haven't played this, you don't want to emulate, you want to have a physical copy, and you want a nice, pristine, clean copy, pick it up now while you can, because this is one of those that it will probably continue to go up. We've already seen it go up. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you've really got the money, I mean, obviously that complete inbox shot way up. So, I mean, if the market keeps going that way, it may be worth investing in either way.
And this is a fun game where, like, you can breeze through it because there's only 7 stages, so it's a quick game. Like, we got through, in like 30 minutes, we got through like 4.5 stages pretty quick. It's a quick game, but, like, this is something if you have kids, they're going to enjoy playing it. You can play 2-player with them, and you can speed run it, too, if that's your thing. So definitely think just right.
Yeah, and it's one that's worth revisiting, every so many years anyways. Like, this is definitely a game that if I had, I would play it every once in a while.
Yep. The next one, this one's actually close to me because I'm a big fan of this franchise in general, but Simpsons Road Rage on the PS2. So this is also released on, I think, the Xbox and the GameCube. I want to say PS2 is the cheapest version you can get, or Xbox. But me and Christopher Pico actually reviewed this on episode 147 of the podcast. He actually took a different turn. He didn't have it on the PS2 or Xbox or anything, so Chris actually played it on the Game Boy Advance. So we did a dual inflation-deflation that day as well. He did the Game Boy Advance version. I did the PS2 version. This game was developed by Radical Entertainment. It was published by EA. It was directed by James Ciraldi. It was released in 2001 in various regions during that time period. The game type is vehicular combat, and the reception is like a 5 to 6 out of 10. So, general synopsis here is Mr. Burns has bought all the transit systems in Springfield, because of course he would, and he's begun to create radioactive buses that threaten the public health. Because of this, the citizens of Springfield must use their own cars as a means of safer public transportation and earn money in an attempt to pay back Burns and get rid of the radioactive buses and return the town back to normal. So a little fun fact here, which is probably to no surprise if you play Crazy Taxi. During 2003, Sega creator and owner of the Crazy Taxi franchise filed a lawsuit against Fox Interactive and Electronic Arts and Radical Entertainment, claiming that Road Rage was a patent infringement of the former, as both games featured nearly identical gameplay and objectives with the Crazy Taxi game engine. According to IGN, Road Rage features similar gameplay to the point where some reviewers commented negatively on the parallels. The in the case of Sega of America Incorporated versus Fox Interactive, it was settled in a private mediation for an undisclosed amount. So clearly they settled, Sega got some money, and Fox Interactive clearly knew, along with EA and Radical Entertainment, that they were definitely in the wrong on this one. Just a quick thing on here. If you haven't played it, it is pretty much Crazy Taxi with The Simpsons. You know, it really is just like exactly the same. You have all of the Simpsons areas, not all of them, but like, you know, the mountain, you've got the entertainment district.
It's a good stretch of Springfield.
The homes, yeah, it expands pretty far out. I remember beating this game pretty handily years ago. And like I said, just like Crazy Taxi, you pick up different characters. They all have little things they say, like their catchphrases. Like Apu says he's going to party like it's on sale for $19.95. You have the captain talking about barnacles. Homer singing Mr. Plow when you play as Mr. Plow. Lisa at some point says, hey, I need to be picked up, and I'm against fossil fuels, but I need a lift. Like little things like that. A lot of fun little quippy comments. So if you're a fan of The Simpsons and you haven't played this, you'd probably enjoy it. Ryan, anything else to add to that?
No, I've never really played the Crazy Taxi games before. It never really was a genre that interested me. Like, I would see it, and it's just kind of like too arcadey for me for the most part. Mm-hmm. But I think that level of nostalgia for The Simpsons really kind of throws it over to the edge, where I was actually having a pretty good time playing it, driving around Springfield, kind of seeing how, like, it's that curiosity, like when they finally released Stick of Truth, and you got a pretty good map of South Park. Like, it's good to see this place that you're so familiar with, but kind of have some idea of how everything's actually related and laid out. Mm-hmm. That's kind of fun. All of, the different voice lines. There's lots of different unlockable characters. The challenge of it, too, is actually more compelling of an arcade game than I thought, because you are trying to get, as high a score as you can, but that, like, rush of like trying to get to the next drop off, and then you've got your timer like constantly ticking down, but you get more time when you pick up a passenger. So it's like you could have 10 seconds left, but if you find a passenger right next to the last one that you dropped off, like you can actually kind of keep pushing and maybe even like gain some time. So the better you are, the like crazier and more hectic it is.
I imagine you're looking at historic prices from a couple of years ago.
Yes, sir.
So, one other thing while you're looking up that is we actually play 2-player on this as well, the head-to-head. And you essentially go through whatever district you want to go through in Springfield. And there's one passenger, and you guys got to race to that passenger. And, of course, you can steal the passenger by hitting your opponent's vehicle. So I completely demolished Ryan, $10,000 to $2,000 in that. Or was it $3,000? I don't remember. But it was funny. The first one you stole from me, like I got the passenger and you're like, oh, what's going on? You stole at the last second. I'm like, you son of a bitch. And after that, it was like a 7,000 to 1 run. You got one more for me. But I think the most hilarious moment while we were playing is I was looking at the map and I saw your vehicle rounding the corner. I'm like, I'm just going to sit here in front of where you need to be dropped off. And you ran into me and you're like, what happened to my passenger? I'm like, it's mine. And then, wrapped around and got the points. So that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that bit of it. So Complete in Box is $13.74 right now. That peaked in June of 2013 or 2023. Sorry, not 2013. By 2 pennies. So $13.76 in June of 2023. It's actually trending up. A loose copy right now will run you $10.06. That peaked at $11.28 in July of 2023. And that's also trending up. So we played this episode when, Ryan? Or played
this was in September 2021. So currently, at that time... Sorry, I looked up Simpsons Road Rage again. Or Hit and Run again.
Ryan. Yeah, so as we were filling out this like template for today, I'm going through and I'm like, why the heck is Road Rage like $35? And of course, it was actually Hit and Run.
Yeah.
And the synopsis made no sense when I was looking at it.
So it looks like Complete in Box, we're down. So it was $10.53 when we first reviewed it back in September 21. So it's gone up like $2.20 or 19 cents, or $3.19 actually. And then Loose was $7.30, so that's gone up another $3. So pretty much in line. So this one's still really cheap.
Yeah, and because it's so cheap right now, and it's a great Crazy Taxi clone, in my opinion. So if you're a fan of The Simpsons and you like that Crazy Taxi gameplay, to me, this is deflated. To me, I would be willing to pay $15 for this game today if I didn't have it for a nice copy.
Yeah, and I think that maybe the biggest difference that we can see here between, Monster in My Pocket and Simpsons, I mean, they're both big media franchises that were very, successful in their time. I mean, Simpsons is still around, but not nearly as big as it was previously. I think that, the nostalgia for the way older games, that market we've seen shoot up. But like the PS2, I mean, it's not that people don't buy stuff for the PS2, but this game was probably so widely released because it was at like peak Simpsons time. This is probably not a game that's going to rise much more than just the cost of inflation. Like, this is probably going to be a game that you're always going to be able to get a hold of at a fairly reasonable price. Like, if this one like shot through the moon, it would be because somebody bought up all the copies and was selling them from one source or something.
Yeah, like the GameCube version is like notoriously high compared to this. So like, and that makes sense, right? Because of the actual install base on the GameCube in comparison to, what is it, 150 something
the
million?
most selling console ever made.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think when you look at it in that respect, like buy it on PS2 if you got a PS2 and enjoy it. Like it's actually a ton of fun.
I think they actually did. Oh no, I think I'm thinking of Hit and Run again.
Yeah, you and I have played. I don't think we played Hit and Run yet, but we did play some Hit and Run. We did. So we've played, I think, like most of the Simpsons games, which is actually kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So, all right, well, thank you again to all of our listeners who have kept up with us for 250 episodes. Woo! It's been a good time so far, and we'll keep it going. This has been Game Deflators Podcast, episode 250. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you.